Let's take another breath. Our theme this month is prayer. My topic today is that prayer shields me. Prayer shields me. We've been talking all month about the fact that prayer is a movement in consciousness. It's a movement in consciousness. There's not a single way to pray. It's whatever gets you there. And I really mean that quite sincerely. Like whatever gets you there is a prayer. Sometimes prayers are in words. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's in silence. Sometimes prayers is a meditative communing with nature or the divine. Sometimes prayer is an act of compassion, a close connection of the heart. Prayer can happen in so many different kinds of ways. It can happen in dance and movement and chant. It's whatever that is that recalibrates you enough that you feel connected. That you feel connected. It's about the connection. It's not about the words. I want you to catch it. It's not about the word. No religion can have a monopoly on prayer. No religion can have a monopoly on prayer. And not only can no religion have a monopoly on prayer, religion cannot have a monopoly on prayer. There's something of the human spirit. There's something of the human heart. From an anthropological standpoint, if you look at it all throughout history, all over the world, every tradition has had some kind of way of making that connection. Whether it's doing deep vision quests. Even in Scripture, it talks about Jesus taking 40 days out in the wilderness just to face his demons, just to face the stuff that's coming up for you. There are all kinds of practices and traditions, but the bottom line is that prayer is about your moving away from the stuff of this world, okay? Where we're not allowing it to dictate and determine who we are. We get stuck on what we see. We get stuck on what we see. And if you look once again throughout the traditions, they'll all tell you, don't judge by the appearances. Don't judge by the appearances. It's Maya. It's illusion. They'll describe it in different kinds of ways. The Native Americans refer to it as a trickster energy, and how the trickster would show up in different kinds of guises and perhaps animal forms. You'll find that in Christianity too, right in Genesis, where the trickster is showing up as a serpent. And that word that's used for devil or Satan literally means deceiver. Listen, not some outside force that's out there making bad things happen, but there's a way in which our perceptions, there's a way in which we go about listening and doing things where we become deceived by our own actions, and we become deceived by our own activities. And prayer is that way of coming back. Sometimes we refer it to back to the beginning. Back to the beginning. Back before you gave all your power to the problems. Back before all of our identities. Because a lot of times the lack and limitation that we get into is based upon the perceptions that we have of ourselves as these different kind of identities. I'm too old. I'm too young. I don't have any degrees. I'm retired. This is a fixed income. I'm a single mom. I'm a this, I'm a that. I'm black, I'm gay, I'm what, like whatever these things are, go back beyond that. Go back beyond that. Because see, the divine doesn't care. The divine doesn't see that. Like it even says in Scripture, in God, there's no Jew, there's no Gentile, there's no male, there's no female, there's just us. There's just us as pure energy fields. And what the prayer does is it removes us. It uplifts our consciousness out of the muck. It gets us out of the muck. Like the reading says, come up. Come up. Come up a little higher. Have any of you ever had that opportunity to be in an airplane while it was raining? It's the most incredible thing. You go through the clouds, up above the clouds. What? The sun is shining. The sun is shining. It's shining. I remember my first international trip. I was 14, and it was a nonstop from Rome to Los Angeles. So it was something like 14, 15 hours in the air going into perpetual sunrise. Oh, it was so awesome. And it was at that moment that, like, I really got it. That the sun's not going anywhere. We're the ones moving. We're the ones moving. And it's a beautiful illusion. I love that illusion. I love the illusion of sunset. Oh, I do. And particularly us living here on the coast, I go and partake of that illusion as much as I can. But I know it's an illusion. Are you with me? The sun didn't leave me. Think about that in your life. The sun's not leaving you. We're moving. We're moving. And we can move to the light. And I'm not here making some wholesale bad thing out of darkness. That's a very colonized way of looking at it. Because the darkness is the sacred womb. It's the sacred womb of all beginning, the void. So just because you're feeling like it may be dark, don't freak out. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. There are gifts in the darkness. There's a reason why we sleep. We're not unconscious. There's a reason why near a third of our lives is spent in the darkness. There's a recalibration that's happening there. Our brains are working at so many different kinds of levels. And when we get out of that beta wave that we're always in, we can space travel. We can time travel. We're not stuck in the limitations. We can see things. We can hear things. We can connect with things. Are you with me? Yes. There's a reason why people say, sleep on it. Don't you have to do that sometimes? I can't look at any more facts. I can't analyze this anymore, up, down, or whatever. I need to step away. I need to step away. Okay, that's a lot like how prayer is. Okay? We're not necessarily really conscious of everything that's going on in our sleep realm, right? But we'll trust it. Say, I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to go sleep on this. I'm going to lay it on the altar, and I'm going to awaken with some other idea. I'm going to awaken with some other kind of fresh perspective. I'm not going to keep digging my heels in about how I think that it looks or how I think it's supposed to be. Are you with me? See, it moves us. It moves us. So when we're thinking the same things the next day that we were thinking the day before, it's not because that thought followed us. It didn't follow us. We rethought it. See, history doesn't repeat itself. We repeat history. History doesn't, we repeat history. Our body temples are constantly regenerating. Our thoughts are constantly synapsing. Our mind is always, there's actually more electrical activity that's happening in your brain in one day than all the cell phones in the world combined. That's how much electromagnetic activity is going on. And we get to choose. We get to choose. We can't see. We only know so much. We only know what we think that it is that we know. And prayer is that humility that says, I don't know. Prayer is not, I know, and let me tell God how to make happen what I know. That's not prayer, where you got to figure it all out and then give God the marching orders of what's supposed to happen. Prayer is humility. It's the humility to say, I don't know. And even if I think I do know, I'm ready to release it. My prayer is always this, Lord, or something better. Because our attention is not for the purpose of manifesting our attention. Listen to what I'm saying. When you do your vision boards, when you do your affirmations, when you do all of that stuff, it is not just for the specific purpose of manifesting that. It's to cultivate your consciousness into the possibility so that you are moving in that direction. But there's always something better, easier, faster, cheaper, more in alignment. No matter what it is that you think is the best, there's always something a little bit more perfect. So your prayers stop being going from bad to good, but good to better. You don't just pray when it's going wrong. There's this constant opening, this constant sense of the non-attachment that says, what's more right? See, most of us, when we're praying, we're just looking at it with a tunnel vision of just what's my way, what's going to work for me. But the divine has a way to make it work for everybody. This was a hard lesson for me to learn, particularly in social justice, okay? Because I'm looking at up the horizon, and all I can see is what I can see. And I want to see some changes. And I want to see some changes now, okay? And the folks that messed up, I wanted them to pay. And I wanted them to pay now. And I was pissed off because it looked like folks were getting off the hook or whatever. So my prayers were punitive, punishing. Okay, are you with me? But what I know is that if you come at it from that standpoint, there's no change. See? If you come at it from that standpoint, there's no healing. Then they can't wait to get back at you again. Or it starts the whole drama. Are you with me? It doesn't heal. It doesn't resolve. It just shifts for a moment. But if you really want healing, listen to what I'm saying, you got to want for everybody to be healed, not just punished. If you really want sustainable change, if you really want transformation, the transformation has to involve everybody, including the ones that you don't like. The transformation has to involve everybody. Everybody. Just breathe that in for a moment. Everybody. Think about your own life. Think about personal relationships that you've had before. Maybe it was siblings or parents or exes or whatever. Who was it? It was some comedian. She said, some people have exes. She said, I have wives. So think about your exes and your wives. Think about where there was a breakthrough. When you just knew there never was going to be one. Did not something shift in your heart? Didn't something shift where suddenly there was room enough for all of you? There was room enough for all of you. Because the universe is redemptive. God is redemptive. It redeems things. It saves them. It salvages them. It composts things. It recycles things. It transforms things. It transmutes things. It doesn't get rid of stuff. Think about nature. Nature doesn't get rid of anything. It breaks it down. It composts it. It shifts it. It changes it. It transmutes it. But it doesn't get rid of it. Are you with me? And that's how we have to be in our lives. On the most personal to the most global political. Don't worry about trying to get rid of it. Allow it to shift. Allow it to change, but it can only shift and change when you have the energy for it to shift and change. So the constant judgment is working against you. The constant condemnation and judgment is working against you. So if you want healing in your life, healing in your relationships, healing in your finances, healing in your body temple, your constant self-judgment is working against you. It's working against you. Because the more that we keep judging, that's the vibratory pattern. So we keep recreating more of that. The shame, the guilt, the blame, the regret, whatever that is, it's a frequency. It's like a lower level chi vibration. Prayer recalibrates you. Listen to what I'm saying. Prayer isn't just a single activity that tries to make something happen. The prayer shifts you so that You were 5 watts, now you're 10 watts, you're 15 watts, you're 20 watts, you're 30 watts. So then you start vibrating with the 30-watt stuff that you want. But when you're on 5, baby, you get 5. And so many of us want the 30-watt people while we're still being 5 behind the scenes. We're putting on a 30-watt mask, but in my heart, I'm at the 5. And it doesn't matter how many masks you put on. It doesn't matter. Our consciousness, our vibration speaks so loudly, people can't hear a word that we're saying. How many times have you looked somebody dead in the face, or you're looking on the camera and you're watching them give the speech and you know they don't believe what they're saying? You know it. Take a breath. We don't have to figure it all out. That's not our job, to know the end product. Our job is to stay in possibility. Our only responsibility is possibility consciousness. Our only responsibility is possibility consciousness. So when you're making your visions and you're doing your dream boards and all of the rest of that, what you are doing is opening up your mind to the possibility. That's what you're doing. Knowing that there's so much more than what you could have possibly imagined. When I say that the prayer shields us, it shields us from the outer disturbances. Prayer becomes like putting on a wetsuit, where you're in the ocean, but you're not as cold. It's like a little insulation or something. Okay? Where the water is rolling off of you. Okay? When you stay prayed up as a practice, all you have to do is be open. That's all. You just say yes. That's a wonderful prayer. Divine order. That's a great prayer. Life is good. That's a great prayer. Here I am, send me. Great prayer. You don't need a lot of words. You don't need a whole bunch of stuff. Thank you. Best prayer in the world. You don't do anything but just walk around all the time with thank you as a mantra. Okay. You become less botherable. Less botherable. See, we become attached to the things that have our attention. We become manipulated by the things that have our attention. We become hypnotized by the things that have our attention, mesmerized by it. We become under its suggestion. And I know sometimes I can feel it when I let the world be too much with me. I can feel like I'm a marionette. It's like, this is the bank account. This is politics. This is this person I'm having an argument with. And people just jerking our strings. And we just cut the strings. not the streams. I'm not saying be disengaged. What I'm saying is engage from another place. Engage from a higher vibration. Engage from a sense of your own spiritual autonomy. Not the outer effect. We're not the effect, we're cause. Isn't that amazing? We're not the effect. We are what puts it into motion. We're not the end result. We set it into motion. Have the courage to move in consciousness. We're in our prayer season now. And we have our prayer groups going on and our praying groups. I'm not sure if they're closed or not. It's worth investigating if you have a call to join in one of these. There are different times, different places, different. Okay, few spaces left. Like check it out. But there's a particular prayer practice that we're asking everybody to learn, no matter how they're learning it, through art or different kinds of ways. And it's a way of focusing the attention that I want to share with you in the last part of our message here. It's referred to as a spiritual mind treatment, and it's coined by Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of religious science or science of mind. And basically, he talks about it as the anatomy of prayer. He says that every effective prayer has these elements in them. It's sometimes referred to as steps, but it really isn't so much about mechanical steps as it is terrain. It's like the terrain in consciousness that a prayer travels. And I find that it's extremely helpful, one, to organize our thinking, and it also reminds me of what I need to focus on. So it breaks down these steps into 5 things: recognition, unification, realization, thanksgiving, and release. And I'm going to go through these really quickly. But that recognition is what I've been talking about. It's where we just pause for a moment to remember that God is God. That God is God. And we stop making gods out of people, places, and things. Is we stop long enough to get grounded. That recognition is that transcendent view that allows us to see that no matter what else is going on, the sun's always shining. There's always possibility. The music doesn't stop. You can be in a foxhole in the war, and there'll be a little Sunday school song that'll stop you from losing your mind. The music doesn't stop because the bombs are falling. The birds don't stop singing. I remember one of the first things that struck me when I went to my first prison visit 18 years ago, in May, how the birds were building nests in the barbed wire fences. They were like, thanks for that curled, thorny stuff. Perfect. You could hear the little chirps of all the little birds. Birds don't stop. So we stop long enough to remember that whatever's going on is not the end, all be, all do, all of everything. The recognition, it takes us to the unification. That the only thing that ever needs to be healed is just a sense of separation. That's all. Separate from our good, separate from each other, our wealth, our health, or whatever. And that unification takes us into the love feeling, takes us into that place of realizing there's no separation here. There's none. It's that place where I put down the weapons in my heart and I'm willing to perceive of myself as connected with you. That's that agapeo love. I don't have to like you. I don't even have to be one with you in the sense of like sharing a meal with you. I don't even have to do all that. But if there's anything in my mind that's saying that you're not a child of God either, I'm forgetting that I'm one. I can't hold on to my own spiritual power if I'm trying to cut some other people out of it. This unification where I'm realizing, why not me? My alter ego, Wilhelmina, has a beautiful poem on that. Why not me? That unification is where we're getting rid of all the ideas of why it can't happen and seeing ourselves with it and unified and whole, the interconnectedness, no more fragmentations. Can you feel this is a terrain in consciousness? We're not our stuff. I'm connected with it all. And then the realization. This spiritual mind treatment, it is an affirmative prayer where it affirms the answer is already done. It's the realization where you get to that point where you know it. You can feel it. You convince yourself of it. We would do better spending our time convincing ourselves that peace is possible than condemning the politicians. Listen to what I'm saying. Because if you're condemning the politicians and you don't believe that peace is possible, then all our energy is going towards the politicians. Doesn't matter whether you like it or don't like it. It's the amount of energy that makes it multiply. It doesn't matter whether you like it or don't like it. It's the level of energy. So if you're spending all your energy trying to fight something, you are making more of it. It's like that example I give of the blue. Like, no blue. No more blue. I have promised myself no more blue. No blue, no blue, no blue. Doing my affirmations all the time. No, you look like a blue. No blue. Guess what I'm going to get more of? Blue. Blue. That poster, Love Trumps Hate, was about the dumbest campaign strategy I could ever think of. No matter what side you're voting on, just as political strategy, you don't put the opponent's name on your banner and don't put your name. But that's what you're doing. Think about it. If your life were a sign, okay, what's on your sign? Is your name on your sign? Are your dreams on your sign? Or is your sign just about all what you don't want and all of the problems? And who do you, and what do you, is your name on your sign? Are you with me? Is your dream on your sign? Is your vision on your sign? What are you broadcasting? What are we broadcasting? The realization, the claiming it as now, not and no prerequisites. Listen to what I'm saying. This affirmative prayer, there are no prerequisites. Not when I lose this weight, when my credit gets cleaned up, when the kids move out the house, no prerequisites. Now, I am healed now. I am whole now. I am in my divine right relationship now. I am in my divine right housing now. Now. No ifs, when the doctor, when my mama, when the baby daddy, when the government, when the president, when the Pope stops shooting us. No. No, nothing else. And the thanksgiving, the recognition, the unification, the realization, and the thanksgiving. Not just for what's already happened, but you're giving thanks in advance. Listen to what I'm saying. You give thanks in advance. You're grateful before, not when it happens. And that attitude of gratitude will allow you to see stuff that you keep missing. It'll recalibrate you. And last but not least is the release. Recognition, unification, realization, thanksgiving, and the release. At some point, you gotta let it go. And your spiritual mind treatment is not complete until you get all the way to the release. It could take you 100 times to complete one. And within all those, it's a terrain, it's a territory. Where does your attention need to go to the most? Does it need to go to the Thanksgiving? Does it need, because, you know, when we get down in the dumps, we stop being grateful. Where does your focus need to be? So yes, it's a combined terrain, 5 steps, but I find it's very helpful to break it down in consciousness like that so I know where to focus on. And I tell you, most of the time, I got to focus on the release. Because I do believe all that other stuff, but I haven't let it go. It's that trust. It's that confidence. Where in your mind, you stop pushing. You stop beating it up. Have you ever been in that relationship where somebody keeps pushing you to make something happen? How do you feel? Pushed. Doesn't it hold it up? Doesn't it hold it up? At some point, something within you has to trust that just because it's not in your control doesn't mean it's out of control. That there is a divine order, that there's a win-win for everybody, and I can go to sleep. That's when you know peace. That's the peace in the midnight hour. Not when it all happens, but before it all happens, you can sleep. Because something within says it's going to be all right. Something within. Recognition, unification, realization, thanksgiving, and sweet release. Can you see how, if you're willing to let your mind go through that territory, you will be shielded, anchored, grounded, and transcendent. Let us pray.